Hello everyone and welcome to a somewhat different video. International Women's Day is just around the corner and I wanted to talk a little about something special to me, so prepare yourself for a deeply personal video. I've always been super open on my platforms about being a mum. I've talked about my children and shared their art. I've mentioned my struggles with balancing being an artist with being a stay-at-home mum. I even make silly, jokey videos about it, which I'm sure many people can relate to as either a mother or a child. But I thought it would be nice to chat about how being a mum has really changed my life and my outlook on it while I draw this picture. Before I get into the deep stuff, let's talk about what I'm drawing today. I was flipping through my sketchbooks and some of my older art the other day, as most of us do, at least I hope you do this, and I came to the realization that I used to draw cute pictures of my kids when they were babies, and then I just stopped. I immediately felt guilt, like I had abandoned them in some way. I know that might sound a bit ridiculous, but you'd be surprised how much more guilt you feel as a parent, and often over things you would have never even considered before. The likelihood of me drawing my children now to share on social media is slim to nothing, since I want to protect as much of their privacy as I can, but I wanted to capture a tender moment between a mother and a child. So, like most times when I want to comfort draw, I turn to my sketchbook. Capturing random moments on camera are some of my favourite realizations when I look back over my photos, and I wanted something perhaps a little candid for this drawing too. It's of no one in particular, except a mother and child looking at and embracing each other. These moments become fewer and further in between as children get older. These days I could be lost in the moment of my son, he's 8 by the way, talking about something that makes him happy. It's usually winning some battle royale game with his friends, I don't know. And I'll realize he's giggling at my face that's gone into a daydream. Where did my little baby go? I make a point when I hug my children to really look them in the eyes. I don't have to say anything. I do, it's always to say I love you. But I just want them to know that for in that moment, they have my undivided attention and they're my entire world. Being a woman is by no means defined by motherhood, not in the slightest. But for me, it's made me both the strongest and weakest person I could be simultaneously. Does that even make sense? It feels like I can now experience emotions from both sides of a scale to the absolute extreme. Seeing my children laughing and having fun brings me the kind of joy that I just cannot describe. But seeing them in pain or emotionally hurt, and don't get me started on when they're trying to be strong and not cry and they do that little chin wobble, well, that can make me feel like my whole world is falling apart. Like I mentioned before, I've felt guilt and doubt over things that before would have just seemed absolutely ridiculous to me, usually because I feel I should be doing more for them, when in fact I know I'm doing plenty. It's a real tug of war out here, you guys. How about resilience? Oh boy, that one is my favourite. Before being a mum, resilience wasn't something I even considered. Sure, I could adapt pretty well to changes and challenges in my life, but to be honest, I was relatively sheltered well into my 20s. Then I had my son, and my life and everything I thought I knew was changed forever. It took me a very, very long time to look after my mental health, and funnily enough, my art always took the brunt of it during harder times. Throw my daughter into the mix 2 years later, and you're looking at a very interesting cocktail of raw emotions to deal with. Sometimes though, being strong means you need to admit when you're feeling weak, and so you look to the people around you. Most of the time, I'm so wrapped up in my own little world of parenthood that I can easily forget that there are people there on the sidelines just waiting to step in. I've talked about my mum here a few times, right? I don't know if you knew this, but she nearly always comments on all of my videos, and if not, she definitely plays them all to try and support me. I don't think I could have ever appreciated and understood my mum the way I do now if it weren't for becoming a mother myself. I know for a fact that I took many things for granted growing up, and honestly, that might be the norm for a lot of people in lucky, privileged situations. But I can only see that now because I definitely did not see any of the struggles she had while I was growing up. That's resilience in motherhood. It's being strong for your children when you feel anything but that, and it's finding ways to look after yourself. If you think about it, you need to strive to look after yourself so that you can invest in your children's well-being too. Making art is one of the ways I look after myself. Yes, it's my job, but it's also one of my outlets. One of my biggest regrets is that I quit making art for long periods of time when I was struggling with general day-to-day life stuff. But the more important thing to focus on is that I always came back to it. And my favourite part of it all is that my kids love to draw too. It feels so good to have an activity that we can, hopefully, share together until I'm super old and even more grey, but if not, that's okay too. So let's just wrap this up before I get a little too emotional. Motherhood is something I could never really define without attempting to write a novel. I've changed significantly, and I don't mean as just a mother, but as an actual person outside of that. I've learned a different kind of patience, experienced a different kind of exhaustion. I'm a kinder person to myself and other people. I've unlocked different ways to understand and deal with difficult situations, and I've loved more than I ever thought was possible.